This is Empowered Human Academy. Welcome home.
I love making people happy, but I'm not going to do it at the extent of changing who I am, which is what I used to do.
This is about love. This is about light. This is about the idea that you have everything you will ever need.
And this life of yours, this is where you grow, you expand, and you remember who you really are.
I'm Abe.
I'm Isaac.
In Empowered Human Academy, we join with humans of all kinds to feel the inspiration that can only come with empowered living.
The stories you hear today are unique, but the energy you hear today belongs to you too. So, with hearts wide open, let's begin.
Ian Randall Day, hello. Thank you for joining us on our podcast. We hang out all the time, every day almost, actually, most days. And we're so excited to have you. What is up? How are you feeling? What's on your mind at this exact moment?
On my mind right now is, I guess, the fact that next week I turn 30 and my 20s were a roller coaster. That's for sure. But in
Amazing.
The best and worst and most wonderful and most crazy way possible. So,
ooh, that's a good thing to be thinking about. Well, we will dive into that for sure in this episode.
Yes.
We begin the way that we always do with this series, with a question of identity. When you're coming home to just yourself and you're not being anything to anyone, you're not thinking about, the roles that you've taken on. You're not thinking about how you introduce yourself at a networking event. Like when you come home and it's just you're not being anything to anyone. What words of identity feel like home?
Lover, dog, dad, homebody. So those are the three things that first come to my mind.
Having been close to you for a while now, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm really pleased about it. Let's start from the top. What does lover mean to you?
Good. Lover, I feel like it's not only that I love someone, but I am also loved back. Being I would call that a half full lover, meaning you are said lover, but it is not coming back at you, is I feel like something that we have all gone through at some point in our life. Yeah. And it's something we all need to go through, to be honest, to really find out who ourselves are. And so that's what I feel like lover is. And I have she's an amazing partner. As you know, the wonderful Allie Thomason. Way too smart and pretty for myself, but something happened. And she really just completes me and all of that and just makes it so that I can confidently say I am a lover.
I love that. The premise here, right, is words of identity that feel like yourself and at home. And I love that, lover, that word implies a relationship with the rest of the world, but it feels close enough to you to be a part of that core list. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. It is.
That's fantastic.
First thing that comes to my mind with that is, I'm going to just say it out loud, is the first thing that we say to each other when we wake up is, I love you. Almost this kind of I'm she may be getting ready to, go to class or something. And I'm but I love you. And it's you're leaving, but I love you. So it's okay. So we say that, God, we probably say it easily 20 times a day to each other. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that will not go away. And I know that. So
I think this is the first conversation we've had where love was such a dominant, love and relationship was such a dominant theme early on. Tell me about that, your history with this. Have you always been ready for this kind of thing? Have you always felt like the lover was a part of you and ready to go? Tell me about Ian over time with this.
So over time, I am notorious for being extremely attracted to blondes. And that started off with, I want to say I was 4 to 6 range, probably more towards that 4. And
really?
The movie
Okay.
The Mask came out with Cameron Diaz and Jim Carrey. And that was Cameron Diaz's first major role movie. And there's a scene where it's raining outside and she comes into the bank to see Jim Carrey's character. And I'm watching this with my mom. Granted, it's like I'm 4 years old. It's a PG-13 movie, whatever. But I turned to my mom and I'm like, Mom, that's a pretty lady right there. And she, knew first off that, okay, he's not going to like guys in that way. He's going to lean towards girls, but that blondes are forever going to run his life. And it is so very true. So very true that blondes are who I lean towards. But that has given me some trials and tribulations. And about, have I always felt ready to love? I would say that's a yes and no. I've always wanted to be loved and give said love. It's just I need to find that right person to receive the love that I have to give. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that did not happen without, a handful of heartbreaks. Because I truly believe you need to go through those heartbreaks to truly appreciate the person that's supposed to be your person. And so I've done my fair share of chasing girls in my day, from high school to college to after college. And then I met Allie, and I knew then that would be my human. I don't know if I've told you guys this story either, is that it was 5:30 a.m. coaching class, September 11th, 2019. It's 5:30 a.m., first class, and she walks into the gym that I'm coaching at, the CrossFit gym. She walks in, I look at her, and my first thought is, shit, I'm in trouble. Because one, she just was drop dead gorgeous to me, still is. Two, I'm like, well, this person I know was dropping in. I didn't really know anything about her, never seen her before. And I'm like, okay, like I'm the head coach here. Like I can't really get into that type of thing. And I was currently dating someone else at the time, which I think was the biggest blessing in disguise right there. Because Allie and I really became friends first and foremost, and connected that way before anything physical ever happened. But yeah, I guess I just told you the story of how I met my person.
I love that.
So that's great.
So you're talking about romantic. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You're fine.
You're talking about, romantic love, which is amazing. And I love hearing the story of the 5:30 a.m. class, because we all know what it's like. Well, some of us know what it's like to be up that early working out. And it is, if you felt like that, looking at someone coming in at 5:30 in the morning, I mean, yes, that's amazing. Yeah. Cause we're all just like waking up, working out. What does it mean for you to be a lover, outside of romantically?
Outside of romantically, the 5 love languages, I like to, words of affirmations coming at me when it comes to love is sometimes feels a little bit awkward to me in a sense. And, I'm still trying to figure out why that is, because my mother always told me she loves me, and she still does to this day, my grandma, grandpa, and all of that. But however, how I express love, not romantically, is through, acts of kindness. We still tell each other we love each other all the time, like I said earlier. But how I really show that is just, those random acts of kindness or whatever I do to make sure her day is going to be as good as possible. Or merely just, another way is just, hugging and embracing each other.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel like for me, love is also just, your daily interactions with the person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As we're thinking about how to, where to go with this conversation, something that I know about you in our relationship, is that you carry a lot of life and liveliness with you. Is that is that something that comes like is there a tie through to the love part here? Like is that a part of how you encounter the world, or does the like vivaciousness that you live with come from a different place, or how is this connected with the, and I don't know how to pronounce this expression, but the joie de vivre? How does that French expression go? The joy of being alive. Is there a link here, or is that a different part of yourself, or what's that story?
I would say that, like, at the core of Ian Day here is that liveliness, that, you know, joyous boyhood. Whoa, like just like no care in the world. That is me in the core. That's how I want to act, because I truly believe that there is too much seriousness and hiding in this world that I just, you know, me with the random things I say every so often, that it's just like, I'm feeling this right now and it's happy and it's wonderful. And just, I get so much joy, not only expressing it, but seeing how people react to it. Sometimes it's like, are they going to react well? Or are they going to be like, what just happened? And so with love too, I in the last, 10 years especially, I've really just come to accept who I am, which is I like to just be playful and whimsical. When I need to be serious, I will be. But, you guys have had many conversations with me that even when I'm talking about health and wellness, like I sprinkle in a little bit of humor here or there, because it's just who I am. Because I get bored with serious talks. I really, really do. And it not only helps me stay intact with said conversation, but I know it helps everyone else feel engaged too. And then that's what I bring to love. I really, really do. And it resonates with some and it doesn't resonate with others.
Yeah. So. What's your relationship to like that expression yourself, Ben? Like you said that like now you're, I think I'm going to misparaphrase this, so please correct me. I feel like what you said was that like now you've just fully accepted who you are and this just is how you are in the world. Over the last decade or so, like was that something that you came into, or was that always like a freebie since you were 3 or 4 or whatever, since the first blonde moment? Like have you always been that way, or?
I have not always been that way. And this segues into a deeper topic about myself, and especially my early 20s, is that I'm very open about the fact that I am like a recovering alcoholic. Like I have been sober since November 3rd, 2013, and I will stay that way for the rest of my life.
Cheers.
And as children, as kids, we have no care whatsoever, right? We're just kind of who we are, especially as infants, toddlers. But then as our brain starts to grow and develop and we get into society more, we become more aware about how other people perceive us, right? And we start to then act in ways that people are going to like or think they're going to like. And so growing up, I remember, being in, it was like when you get into middle school and, the girls are starting to wear makeup, you're going through puberty, you need to start putting deodorant on because you smell bad, or quote unquote smell bad. That's when I started to really, really care about what people thought about me. And then as I aged and went into high school, it just grew and grew. And then I had a real good identity in high school with being that, but being a very, very good vocal singer, and just that being my niche. And then I went to a university where, your slate is clean and you have the opportunity to be whatever you want. And I didn't know what to do with that, and just kind of learned like, to fit in here, you need to go out and party, drink and all of that. And that's the way that I felt that I could be my playful self. The true Ian was through that, because otherwise I really, really cared what people thought about me.
Interesting. Okay, so making sure I understand. So it wasn't that you were trying to be something other than yourself. It's that you thought that this was the way to be yourself in that larger context. Is that right?
Yes.
That's super interesting.
Because
okay.
Because I would get to that. I would just be so worried about what people thought. And when I was sober, that I would then drink and then not give, a damn about what people thought. And my true playfulness came out. But then the alcohol takes over, and bad decisions were being made. And during a 2-year stint, I got 2 DUIs or OWIs, whatever state you're in. It's driving under intoxication or operating while intoxicated. And I got 2 of those within a 2-year time. And that was some of the hardest years in my life, and the few years after that, but also something I would never take away from the life that I have now. Like, they truly defined who I am, and I would not trade that for the world at all.
I'm hearing, maybe this is a pattern. Tell me if it is or isn't. This sounds a little bit similar to what you said earlier about, like, you got to have, my words, not yours, the failed lovers before you can really appreciate your person. Is that a similar kind of thing? Yeah,
absolutely. Like the saying, just because you fail doesn't make you a failure, right? There's that saying. Just like with a health journey, or like getting let's use the example of getting your college degree. It is the steps that you take where you learn the information for that degree. It's not like, oh, here's this paper, now I have all the information all of a sudden. It's not like, oh, we're downloading it in there. It is the years, it is the hours that you spend studying like that and learning that degree. With myself, it is, I would not be who I am today without the trials and tribulations that I had. I would not appreciate my lover to the extent that I do without those previous ones. So that's why I truly believe, like, the outcome is great. The process is the true, like, golden apple, true pot of gold, like the bread and butter of it all.
So tell me about what you went through in those 2 years post the DUIs, and how that helped shape you into who you are today.
Yeah. So like I talked about a little bit earlier, I did that because I felt like that's how I could truly be myself without caring what other people thought. And funny enough, Isaac and I had this conversation the other day that I got my 2 DUIs, then I decided to go sober, and then I decided to move away from Iowa. And I left Iowa with about 10 credits left for college, and moved to Colorado, the Boulder area. And I actually, on purpose, secluded myself from socializing. The only socializing I did was when I was coaching classes or really with my family. I would say the first year and a half, 2 years is where I was really, really making sure that, one, I learned and tried to like understand who I was and what I wanted, without alcohol and all of that. And that was another part of my life where I wouldn't take it back at all. It's a part of my life where I suddenly realized that I went from having FOMO, fear of missing out, to JOMO, joy of missing out. And it's not that I am going to say no to every opportunity. I just know that there are some things I'm going to say yes to, and that it's absolutely okay to say no, because there are other things that will come up. Some of my best nights were just sitting in my aunt's couch where I lived and, watching Netflix and having it on, and then really just thinking about, like, who is Ian Day? Like, what do I want Ian Day to become?
Yeah.
What makes me happy? What makes me feel alive? And as a 22, 23-year-old who is secluding himself from the social world, it was, I would say I went through a little bit of a depression there, but it was one of the things, it was a self-imposed depression. So I could just really, really get to the bottom of, how do I want to act, and when am I going to feel comfortable acting that way and not giving a shit what society thinks?
Yeah.
So how was that kind of process in those 2 years thinking about these things? Like, was it just like a realization moment of like, oh, I want to be like this without people thinking about me? Or was it a gradual kind of process that required kind of trial and error testing to see what it would be like to then, go out in public or do, engage in social occasions? What was that process of like coming home to this version of yourself that you did feel comfortable with in a new way, without alcohol?
It was definitely trial and error. It was not a sudden realization, because I did move to a state where I only knew my aunt and uncle. I didn't know anyone else. And it started off with, while I was just coaching my CrossFit classes, just kind of like seeing like, okay, I'm just going to be playful today and not the serious collegiate strength and conditioning coach that I was for 2 years at my university. And there's some people resonated with it and some people didn't. And it wasn't like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, like this is good, like I can be this all the time. It was more me realizing over just like a broad spectrum of like data research in itself, and the realization that some people aren't going to like me. All right. There's no two ways about it. Some people aren't going to like me. And for the longest time, I was so worried about everybody liking me. And Abe, you know this, when you were my empowerment coach, like to this day, it's still something that I, struggle with from time to time, but it's only like a split second now. But back then it was just like me going into like, maybe I decided to have dinner with some of my fellow coaches and just sprinkling a little bit of like my true self, not so much for them to see, but for me to realize like, it's okay if you say something that is stupid or they perceive as stupid, because it's how they perceive it. It's not me. It's how they perceive it.
Absolutely. I think that takes a lot of vulnerability and courage, which is really, I think, kind of what we all aspire to be like or aspire to practice, is just being our authentic selves in different contexts, especially without substances, especially in our culture. It's so, and especially as men as well. Because I feel like, there's just these kind of cultural expectations of men and just patterns over the course of decades where men haven't been able to be vulnerable or express their emotions properly. But I find that really encouraging.
Well, I want to know more about the why here, I suppose, because it sounds like you've been kind of relentless about like getting back to yourself from like the self-imposed seclusion, like let me go off and figure out who I am in isolation, to curiously, even, I mean, at least the way I read it, even the like pre-DUI, using alcohol to get to yourself. Like so many people use substances as a way to escape or a way to fit in. So it's super interesting to me that was part of like that choice at that time was more about accessing yourself than anything else. And if I'm understanding all of that right, like where does the priority of like inhabiting yourself come from? Like so many people give that away for other priorities. And it sounds like you've been clear on that one for a really long time. Tell me about that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it comes back to my childhood, and specifically the transition from, there's two transitions that I really think about quite often, is my going into middle school and then leaving high school, going to college. Going into middle school, I realized that I could be a very, very good athlete. I could also be a very, very good musician and singer. And I ended up choosing musician and singer, especially for high school. You guys know this about me, but I am an all-stater for singing, Midwest Men's Honor Choir, scholarship offers going into college, and I said no to that. Part of that was because I was super burnt out. That was 6 years of my life, just day in, day out. Would I take that away? Absolutely not. It taught me perseverance. It taught me persistence. It taught me patience. That's 3 P words right there, FYI. It's random thought. And it has just really helped shape me to who I am. But I, quote unquote, threw that away to just try something new. And it was that moment from high school into college where I didn't know who I was anymore. And so I didn't know how to act because I only knew what I knew in my small town of Iowa, where I graduated with, 250, I think, kids. So it's a decent size for Iowa. But I didn't know what to do. Like, hi, I've been singing for the last 4 years. I'm now at a Division I school. I like talking to people, but all I know is music, and I don't really know what pop music is that much. I love a cappella, but I'm too scared to like say that because it's not mainstream and no one else is listening to that. When the actuality is like everyone freaking loves Pentatonics before it was Pentatonics. They were just too afraid to say it because it's not cool in society. And it was like society, especially like that's when social media started to really ramp up. Like Instagram and Facebook started when Facebook was, I remember getting Facebook my freshman year, and then Instagram like my freshman year of high school, and then Instagram my sophomore year of college. And that's when the millennials were like, oh man, like societal like views of you become super important. And as being like a 19-year-old, you're like, oh man, I'm soaking all of this up right now. And so what I realized was, okay, everyone here loves to drink. I really dislike beer, but vodka gets me to that point of I don't give a shit about what's going on, and then I can be myself that way. And so that was all because of the fact that, not because of the fact, but a big driving force was like, I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And society told me I really needed to know what to do when you turn 18. When the fact of the matter is my frontal cortex is like 50% developed at that point. And they're telling me you need to know what the heck you're going to do for the rest of your life, which is probably a good 70 years. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. So yeah. I'm still fascinated by like what seems like a really natural for you decision to focus on like, or to prioritize, and tell me if I'm getting this wrong, to prioritize who you are versus what you do. Like the reason why we open up this podcast with like, who are you, not what do you do, is because like personally, I believe that that's super fucking important. So I'm curious about how, again, if I'm reading this correctly, it sounds like you've always prioritized things that way. Am I right about that? Or did you learn that along the way? Or I would say that the isolation point of my life is when I did start to prioritize it right, because the fact of the matter is that if I didn't do that, I would be incarcerated due to the 2 DUIs. So it really wasn't a choice.
Okay. Yeah.
In my sense, it really wasn't a choice. Because the fact of the matter is like, if I got caught with alcohol, or like got behind the wheel of a car and had a drop of alcohol on my body and had to blow, I would go straight to jail and then would go to prison for however many years that sentence would be. So a lot of it was like, I had no choice at that time and was just kind of scared, but it's the thing I was searching for and didn't really know.
Oh, tell me more about that.
It's the thing that my soul and my life needed to do. It was just the universe had to show me in ways that were pretty fucking hard emotionally and financially for myself and my family.
Sure.
Which is, when I think about it, it's like, like I really had no choice. Actually, there are 2 choices: do it or be behind bars. Because the fact of the matter was, if I would not have gone sober, I would have absolutely been in bars, and there's a good chance I probably would still be in there, behind those bars right now.
But I think so. Yes, 100%, all completely. But I'm imagining like someone else in your shoes. I don't know. Like there's the choice to go sober, which is colossal. Firstly, whether it felt like a choice or not, like deep respect for what you're doing. But a choice that one person makes can play out in ways completely differently than a choice that someone else makes. And you took this in a direction of like resolving self-identity and I don't want to put too many words of my own into this. But what I want to understand more of, like, what made this so productive? Maybe if I can put it as simply as that. Like, I don't know, like someone else could have taken this in a totally different direction, like alcohol or not. Like you can have a terrible self relationship and be sober. That's a thing. So what was it for you? Like, why are you doing so well?
Goodness, why am I doing so well? Well, it's not just one thing.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
for sure. It's, the people that I've met, you two specifically, have been in my life since 2016. So we're going on like almost 7 years now, guys. That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
But it's the people that I've come into contact with. It was the decision of something that I love, bringing joy to people and helping others.
Yeah.
And one of the realizations was that the easiest way for me to do that was to just show up as Ian, and just
which is what does that mean, to show up like Ian?
To show up, good question. To show up as Ian is to just bring that playful, boyish humor, even though I'm about to be 30 years old. Like,
sure.
fact of the matter is, a lot of people, a lot of adults still laugh at fart jokes or the sound of a fart. And I am one of those people. And especially in the CrossFit realm, which I was in for 8 years coaching and 3 years before that as just being a member, is one of the sayings there is, it should be the best hour of your day. And that really resonated with me, because it was the best hour of my day when I was a member. Yeah. And a lot of that was because of, the people that were around me. And in part of my isolation, I really thought about how the world is full of so many different personalities that make it such a wonderful and exciting and expansive place. And why should I not feel comfortable being myself when I'm in this world, I'm in this universe? I'm a reason why it's so good, and also probably a reason why some people don't like it too. But guess what? That's what makes the world such a great place. There's yin, there's yang, there's our fucking world, right? And so with coaching, I found it was just my way to be like, hey, this is me. If you want to come and have some fun, you know, I'm that guy. And if you also want to learn, I'm that guy also. And like, that's like, we've talked about before, like what makes you feel alive. Like I'm talking louder, I'm sitting up, I'm getting excited because I just like, I love making people happy. But I'm not going to do it at the extent of changing who I am, which is what I used to do I used to do that. And then I realized I found alcohol. I'm like, oh, I don't have to change who I am because I'm a playful guy, which is kind of like a drunk person sometimes. When in actuality, I feel like drunk people a lot of the time are just acting how they really want to.
Sure. Absolutely. Sure.
Yes, it really is. And yeah, so let's just keep going on this roll. Keep asking. Let's go.
Well, I'm so excited about the fact that like when alcohol proved to be like deeply counterproductive, you didn't give up on being yourself. You're like, no, the being myself is still the important piece. And I'm going to go find a different way to do that. That seems really important. Am I phrasing that right?
No, it's super important. And like, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about like because like it didn't just come from me. Like we are shaped from our environment and the society that we were around. And it comes down to my family, specifically the strong females that I have in my family, my grandma, my aunt on my mom's side, and my mother. Always told me, just be yourself. You are smart, you are strong, you are beautiful, you are funny. And, you know, in that time of isolation, I was living with my aunt and uncle.
Oh, wow.
And I was living with my aunt and uncle. I lived with them for the first 10 months that I lived in Colorado. And my aunt, like to this day, will just remind me, like she will say, just show up, Ian. One of the sayings is saying, one of the things that we say is like, hi, I'm Ian. And he just started off with that. Just be who you are, which for me is that playful human, is that person that loves to help others. I love to teach health and wellness and meet people where they're at. And so like that would not happen without the affirmations that I got with and from my family, for sure.
Yeah. I see you out in the world, like affirming other people in turn too. Is that talk to me about where the desire comes from to help? Like you've described yourself that way before in conversations that we've had. Like you love to help people. Tell me about that.
So yeah, just helping others is, it's something where it's what makes me feel alive. Seeing like in the gym, specifically Abe, seeing you be able to hold a ring dip for 5 seconds when you've never done that before is something that just brings me so much joy. Not in a selfish way, because that like I was able to help you get there, but the joy that it gives you too. And I found that specifically through health and wellness, that the little things that I can tell people, you know, are hopefully going to lead them to experience the world in a new light, like they've never seen it before through their bodies. And I just, like to walk around and try to bring that essence. Do I bring that every day? No, because I'm a human. I'm not perfect. I have my good days and my bad days, and I react differently to different people too. Because guess what? We're not all going to like each other. It's a thing. But at my core is helping others, because I get joy from seeing the joy that comes out of people when they're able to do something they never thought they were able to do, or they're finally fulfilling something that they worked hard to do that they kind of thought they weren't able to do, but they tried. They tried. Awesome. For sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
Let's that kind of segues into my thoughts and questions around health and wellness. You said you like to help others experience the world in a new light through health and wellness. How have you experienced the world in that way, in a new way, over the last 10 years?
Yeah. So I've always been an athletic human. I've always liked to sweat. May that be in football. May that be when I was on the swim team. May that be when I was working out at the college rec center with my friends. And so with that, with the health and wellness, that it was also a way that back in my early 20s, how I got a lot of my frustration about myself out was working out. I got a lot of my frustration out doing that, because I was, even though it's something now that I look back upon I would never ever change, for the longest time I was very, very ashamed of the 2 DUIs that I got. Very ashamed. It probably wasn't until I was about 26 that I started to just be open about it with people. Yeah. I remember when I was 23, 24, trying to go on dates with girls, and that's when online dating happened. I was always so nervous to ask them out, because the norm was like, hey, let's go get a few drinks or something. And I was like, I can't do that. And that would just frustrate me so much. And I ended up just working out instead of it, because it got my anger out towards, part of it was towards myself, but a lot of it was just towards the situation that I brought upon myself. Yeah. And then through that, I found CrossFit and really, really got into that and got very, very successful as being a CrossFit trainer, and just kind of learned that, through the health and wellness, it's not just about working out. It's really about what's in between your ears, and how controlling that is such a big part of your health. And it was just the last 10 years, I've really just, tried to intake as much information as possible to just kind of learn as much as possible to help people as much as possible. And I found that whenever I learned something new, I immediately wanted to tell the person next to me, because I'm like, one, this shit's really awesome. And two, this is probably going to help you also, which in a selfish way is going to make me so happy, when it's not that selfish. It's just, it's going to make me happy. So yeah, to hopefully answer that question, is like, throughout these 10 years, it was just working out, got my anger out. Then I realized, wow, I really like to look good naked.
Cheers.
And then, with working out, I was also feeding my brain and my mind. And because of that, I was able to help others feed their brains, their minds, and make them look better naked.
So I
love that.
Totally. So you're a CrossFit coach. You train us and are kind of you are the wellness advisor for our company. For the people who are listening, and as we wrap this up shortly. What are some kind of general tips that, you said you like learning about different things and you love sharing it with people. What are kind of, if you could just spit out some facts or some things that might help someone who might be listening to kind of take control of their own health and wellness that you think are important, that are, some might be, the normal, like get 8 hours of sleep or however many hours of sleep you want. But are there any ones that someone might not know who one, doesn't have time, or two, doesn't know much about, health and wellness? Because I know when I first started, I didn't know anything. Anything would be helpful. What would you say?
I would say, first off, the biggest thing is we all start somewhere, guys. We all absolutely start somewhere. Do not be ashamed of if getting physical activity means walking for 30 minutes. Don't be ashamed of that. All right. That is where you are at. One of my core values as a health and wellness coach is I will always meet my clients or my people where they're at and then help them get to where they want to go. And if that means we're walking for 30 minutes for 5 days a week, great. That's absolutely phenomenal. Another thing is, if we want to get into like the nutrition side of it, is just eat whole foods, which is just, farm grown meat, vegetables, a little grains, a little bit of fruit. And just honestly, like if it's in an aisle and has a expiration date, let's try to stray away from it. Let's try. We're going to try. And then another thing is, it's not a perfect journey. Health and wellness is not a perfect journey, which is what makes it so beautiful. All right. Because of the mistakes we make, we learn and grow. As long as we realize, like, okay, that was a mistake. Absolutely. As long as we realize like that was a mistake. And that's where help from others becomes such a big thing too. I know that it's, I don't know, I'm not going to say I know this, but there's often many times where, you feel almost ashamed that you need to ask someone for help when just having that support person or asking for that help could be the thing that literally changes your life. So, yeah.
I feel like in large part, you're summarizing like everything else that we've already talked about. Like it's an imperfect process, and the friction points are critical to where you went, like to the good that you end up with.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's super imperfect. And that's what makes it beautiful. It really, really does. I actually earlier today posted a picture on my Instagram of me after a workout, and I look just like I got slapped in the face and I'm tired. And the fact of the matter is like, that's how I did feel. But that was the process, and I love it. Because the fact of the matter is I'm not going to look great all the time. I'm not going to be perfect at what I do all the time. And that's something that I would love to resonate with so many people, is that the beauty of health and wellness is that it's imperfect. And because of it being imperfect, we're going to get to where we want to and sustain it for a long, long time.
Well, and I think it's cool to normalize that it's going to be imperfect, and to not even try to even be perfect, and to actually kind of celebrate and normalize looking like you got slapped in the face. I think that's, which kind of relates to what you've been talking about the whole time, is showing up authentically as yourself, whatever it is, right? And yourself this morning was really tired and looked like you got slapped in the face, and sometimes it's not, right? But I think that's something that I'm taking away, is that just honoring like all that is, period. And that's just really encouraging.
Before we get to the official closing of this thing, just because I love hearing you talk about this part, you led very early on by saying, at my core, I am a dog dad. Tell me about why that's important. Tell me about that part of your life in like a minute.
I have a wonderful 1.5 yellow lab named Bozeman. That's with an S, not a Z, just so everyone knows.
Thank you.
And he brings me so much joy, so much frustration, so much love. He has too much energy, but that dog, you have often said that dog resembles who I am in my core and who what I try to be, which is playful. And he is Mr. Playful, Mr. Loving. And I'm going to say I kind of hope that I can resemble my dog as much as possible, because he's just happy and loves food. And I love food and I love my dog.
Didn't we have someone else on our podcast talk about how their dog teaches them how to be more human? I think Deborah. That's so funny. That's amazing. Our dogs and
wonderful.
Our pets can teach us a lot. That's amazing.
In closing, last 2 questions. We ask these every time. First question is, what does an empowered Ian Day look like and feel like?
An empowered Ian Day looks and feels like I'm tall, I'm big chested, I have a giant smile on my face, and I feel like I'm over caffeinated. That's great.
Amazing.
I also don't have much of a filter.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
I adore that.
And then lastly, last question. What do you know for sure?
I know that the perfect world is full of imperfect people who want to help others.
Love it. Ian, thank you so much for joining us on Empowered Human Academy.
Happy early birthday. I'm excited for your 30s. Let's go.
Thank you, guys.
I'm excited to work out with you tomorrow. Hopefully you enjoyed some of Ian's journey. Those of you who are listening, Ian, your journey is awesome, and we're so grateful to be a part of it. And thank you for being part of ours.
Thank you.
And we will see you right after this. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast is the work of Lightward, our company, named for that toward the light direction which informs every single thing that we do, including money, which means, like everything else, the way we earn revenue is not based on industry norms. It's based on what feels deeply right and aligned by passing through the door that feels like it has more behind it, not less. And the way we keep this podcast going is all Lightward. It's pay what feels good. It's an exchange of value between you and us. We're keeping conventional podcast advertising totally out of this. And here's how Pay What Feels Good works. We give you this episode because it feels good to do so. And you consider, honestly, what number of dollars this episode is genuinely worth to you. I do not care if that's $3, $1,000, or literally $0 and a heart emoji, as long as that trade genuinely makes your day better. And the energy there is the entire point. That is what we're building our business on. No advertisers, no selling your attention, just you and us, trading value in a way that builds us both up. So whatever the number, when you're done listening, head to empoweredhumanacademy.com and hit the Pay What Feels Good button. We use this policy across all of our company's work, and I'm really excited to bring it here to the world of podcasts. This is us voting for the world we want to see. Thank you for being here.